All right, I'm getting ready to do a review of one of my uh, occasionally favorite YouTubers. I mean, sometimes I disagree with him, but hey, if I ever saw him out and about in real life, I would shake his hand, buy him the drink of his choice, and go on about my way. Uh, in peace and harmony. This is not a guy that has ever angered me or did anything that I feel like is egregious. I mean, and I love his stuff. I don't agree with everything, and I do think that he plays the game very well. Of course, he has to. He's a school teacher, professor. So he's going to be really good at playing the game because otherwise his ass is going to get fired. Because that's just the nature of working for schools. You're not allowed to have common sense or anything if you work for schools. You have to toe the line of all the crazy wacko teachers you see posting online, right? So that said, yes, it's DM Dungeon or it's Professor Dungeon Master, and as usual, yes, he is definitely in my top 10. And when it comes to sharing useful information about DMing and stuff, I think that he's definitely worth watching, especially if you're a new DM and you just really don't know what you're doing. You're going to want to watch Dungeon Professor. His Caves of Carnage, which I modified mine too, but I didn't call them Caves of Carnage because I wasn't that creative. I just changed everything and then called it the Caves of Chaos anyway. But that is a master class on taking one of the greatest adventures ever written, B2 Keep on the Borderland, and making it even better. I mean, I love his campaign notes on how he did the Caves of Carnage. It is absolutely the bee's knees. It is, talk about standing on the shoulders of giants and reaching for the stars. That's what I would say about his version of Caves of Carnage. It's just so good. But in this video, we're going to talk about Trey Parker and Matt Stone and D&D apparently. And I am here for it. One, when South Park very first came out, we're talking like season 1. It was something that me and some of my friends, we would meet up every like Friday or whatever, whenever it was on. And we'd all be piled into my buddy's apartment because, he made enough money to have HBO or whatever channel it was on, Cartoon Network or whatever. And we would always watch it. And, South Park is one of those weird experiences where you might hate one episode, but you might love the very next episode. So that's just how South Park is, You just don't get offended by shit and just watch it. Also, to quote one of the characters of South Park, Disintegration is the greatest album ever. You know what? I believe it. Disintegration is the greatest album ever. So let's go here and get this started. It's a 9-minute video, but I'm sure I can make an hour out of it.
Deathbringer here. I heard a human once wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer. Fool! He should have grabbed his gods by the throat and made them build him a new world with Tailspire.
That
makes no sense to me.
You're supposed to do it Beavis and Butthead style?
What is a Beavis?
This past week, I was contacted on X by Tabletop Prophet, who asked, PDM, I saw this on YouTube Shorts and I thought of you. I'd love to see a video with your thoughts on it. The video in question features Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators and writers of South Park, and they're teaching writing to a group of NYU film students. I can't show you the video because I'll get demonetized. I'll include a link to it below. But it contains some great advice for not just writers, but dungeon masters as well. This topic was big on Reddit a couple of weeks ago. Some trivia. Matt and Trey write SouthPark much in the same way a dungeon master plans their next session, just a week ahead of time. That's why the show is so topical. And the tip they give can reduce your prep time by as much as 70%, and your players are going to love it. And we talk about it today on Dungeon Craft.
Yeah, before we go into the intro for Dungeon Craft, that is what set South Park apart from every other show that was out, and it's one of the reasons a lot of people, would be like, well, the animation sucks, but you'd still be watching it because while the animation sucked, the storylines and the social commentary they were making was interesting. And it was stuff that, you might want to know about. So, yeah, South Park was and is, I think, a cultural touchstone in a way that's hard to even describe. There's so many things that we Gen Xers do, like quotes and shit, on the daily that come directly from South Park. Like if somebody's doing something and you're trying to tell them to do something, and and every now and then you'll hear somebody say, respect my authority, or whatever. I mean, it's all South Park stuff, What? I didn't hear no bell. I mean, this is still America, right? I mean, just all that kind of stuff. And of course, Kyle's mom's a bitch. She's a big old bitch. Biggest bitch in the whole wide world. She's a bitch. She's a bitch. She's a bitch. A bitch to all the boys and girls, right? I mean, I could go on, but there's no need to. So let's watch DM or Professor Dungeonmaster's intro, which I am constantly jealous of. And it's sad. I had that stat.
Welcome to Dungeon Craft. I'm Professor DM, and this channel is about all things tabletop role-playing games. And if you're into it, Deathbringer, tell them what they should do.
Like, subscribe, bell, comment, newsletter, Facebook, X, and Patreon for bonus content.
Thanks for the suggestion, Tabletop Prophet. I'm going to include a link to your video below. I'm also going to include a link to a channel called Stephanie Plays Games. I wrote this script last week, and I was doing some crafting one evening for an upcoming campaign diary. This is what I'm working on. And Stephanie's video came up, and it was about the same topic. So I tried to create a video which would complement hers, and I urge you to check out her video at that link below. So in the video, Matt Stone says, we found out this really simple rule. We could take the beats of an outline, and if the words and then belong between those beats, it's going to be boring. What should happen is between every beat you've written down, you could put the words therefore or but. As in, this happens, therefore this happens, but this happens, therefore this happens. A disclosure, am I talking about scripting at a game? No. Do I think role-playing games or movies or television shows? No. We're talking about emergent storytelling, which runs very contrary to the many popular adventure paths that are published today. It's one of the reasons I didn't care for Vecna Eve of Ruin. The players are charged with recovering the rod of 7 parts, and they go to this realm, and then this realm, and then this realm. No provisions are given if they fail to get one of those parts. It doesn't matter what your players do, what decisions they make, they're just going to go to the next section. Personally, I find that boring. In an emergent game, a story unfolds organically as a result of the player's decisions. The pros are you get player autonomy. Their decisions really impact the world around them, and that creates a more immersive experience for the players. And for the game master, it reduces your work by probably at least 70%. I have a 30-year campaign, and I've never planned more than a session ahead because I don't know what my players are going to do. Maybe they defeat the villain. Maybe the villain's going to defeat them. Maybe the villain gets away and swears revenge. I just don't know. I have played campaigns where the Game Master planned 3 or 6 sessions ahead, but we never got there. It seems counterintuitive, but if you actually want a longer campaign, you might consider planning less. Now, what the Game Master needs is just 2 scenes. You have to have a conclusion and an inciting incident, and the players are going to do the rest. The conclusion is that final scene. It's the dragon's lair. It's these towers. I don't know how the players are going to get there, but that's where the scenario ends. The inciting incident is as old as Shakespeare's Hamlet, when he is visited by his father's ghost.
Hamlet, I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain time to walk the night, till my foul crimes are burnt and purged away. Listen, avenge my most foul and unnatural murder.
And now Hamlet knows exactly what he's got to do, avenge his father's murder. I did an adventure some years ago called Macbeth, and ever since then people have been asking me for a Hamlet module. And I have to explain that Hamlet is essentially every D&D game. The players have a clear objective, and then they spend the next 4 hours making overly complex plans and going on side quests. But the point is, Hamlet's got a very clear mission right from the get-go. Then you got to work on that climax. That's where you should put most of your work. My climaxes always have a bunch of moving parts. Like there's always not just a monster, but some sort of treacherous terrain and timers. And that's where I'm going to do a lot of my work in my notes to make sure that I can run things smoothly. If you want to run a game this way, you have to develop one particular skill. If you've ever watched Matt Mercer, GM on Critical Role, he is focused like a laser on his players. Like he's really listening intently. His players are the protagonists. They do something, he reacts. They act, he reacts. Forget about what you want them to do. Listen to what the players actually do. And it can be really tough. I always recommend, especially newer game masters, have fewer players. I think role-playing games work best if you have 3 or 4 players, 5 at the max. To go beyond that, you really have to be an expert. Listen to what the players say, react to it, and at the end of the session, ask your players where they want to go next. And then they have to stick to it. It gives them autonomy, but then you still have ample time to plan the next session. So what does this look like in practice? Imagine the Caves of Chaos. I did a whole series of videos years ago called the Caves of Carnage. The players go in to the owlbear lair, kill the owlbear, bring its head back to the tavern, where the tavern...
Completely awesome. If you have never seen Professor Dungeonmaster's campaign thing on Caves of Carnage, that is like, I'm telling you, if you're a new DM, first off, don't play 5th edition. He claims to play 5th edition. Don't play 5th edition. It's trash, right? But his info on how he changed the Caves of Chaos is gold standard stuff. It is truly amazing stuff. I cannot. I mean, I see verklempt about it. I seriously could go on all day about how amazing of a job he did. That all said, unfortunately, sometimes I think he shows a little bit, and I think he hangs out with a bad crowd too, because like buddying up with Bob Worldbuilder and stuff like that, and Ben from Questing Beast. I mean, I don't think they're very good DMs. And Ben from Questing Beast has exactly 0 honor, I would say. He has no principles, But the fact that people pay him for reviews and he can be bullied into taking reviews down, even though he liked the game and stuff like that, has caused me to have a very negative opinion of him. And some people can say he didn't earn it, and some people can be like, he did. But the point is, Dungeon Professor or Professor Dungeon Master, PD, I think sometimes he plays the YouTube game, and he plays it very well. uh, I'm a little jealous. I wish I was as smooth as he is about it. But and bear in mind, if this sounds like I'm talking bad about him, I love the guy. I think he's great. But yeah, sometimes I think he hangs out with a bad sort of crowd, and he would be better off, focusing in on OSR stuff, OSE. We know he loves OSE. And so if you're going to redo the Caves of Carnage, I mean, it's got to be OSE stuff, in my opinion. He, of course, can do whatever he wants because he is the dungeon professor. And as the dungeon professor, whatever he wants to do is 100% fine. That's his gig. He wants to do it. Okay. But yeah, the Caves of Carnage, oh my God. So good. Plus, he can map isometrically, which pisses me off because I've had the Wilderness and Dungeoneer Survival Guide since like the late 90s, and I still can't do that. As a matter of fact, the last time I drew a dungeon map, it was just circles with dots. It was a flow chart, you know? It was, which is how paramedic stuff works. It was a if this, then this. If this, then this. If this, then this. If they don't go down this corridor, then they don't go to this place, blah, blah, blah. And then just I'd write next to the line, 50-foot corridor, 10-foot wide, 12 feet tall. And then just make it up from there on out. Anyway, everything he's saying in this video is dead on, based, cap, as the young people say. This is full cap. And as an older person, we'd just say he is spitting facts.
Keeper pays them 50 gold pieces to stuff and mount it. And because of that, the tavern becomes famous, with people coming from miles away to see the owlbear head. But because of that, it attracts other adventuring parties to the keep on the borderlands. One of those adventuring parties is Max's Marauders, and they're led by a boorish jerk, Max Mannheim. And now Max's team wants to pilfer the Caves of Chaos. So the players have to race against him before he clears out caves and takes their treasure. And what about that empty owlbear lair? Maybe a dragon moves in. That's emergent storytelling. Another game I ran, it was like an LA noir kind of thing for the Dread role-playing game. I don't know if you've ever played it. It's got those a Jenga tower instead of dice. And it was based on like the Black Dahlia murders, Chinatown, LA Confidential, that kind of thing. And the players are detectives investigating a murder and corruption. And so the two police officers uncover this conspiracy and all this corruption in the LAPD, and they bring the information to their captain. And I'm listening to them as they describe all the stuff they found. And what they don't realize is the captain is the bad guy. They're actually telling the bad guy their plans, and I'm thinking, and it's great, it's fun for me, because I'm laughing inside, thinking, oh my gosh, they don't realize this is the guy that's behind it all. Now, I knew that game would end with a shootout of some sort, either on a docks or a warehouse, so I had the captain send them on an assignment to investigate this warehouse, and when they're inside, every single corrupt cop from the LAPD swarms them. Now, I knew it was going to end in a shootout, but I didn't know exactly how it was going to get there. My players decided that, and it resulted in an exciting adventure that I couldn't have predicted. So it's surprising for them, and it's surprising for me. And I have done way less work. Now, I'll be the first to admit, emergent storytelling takes courage. It's giving up a lot of control to your players and having the faith that they're going to make good decisions. But let's face it, your players probably aren't going to do what you want anyway, so why not embrace the chaos and just go with the flow?
Right.
That can be scary, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And more often than not, it's taken my game in surprising directions that I never could have planned. With emergent storytelling, your players get more of a say in their world, and it becomes a more immersive experience. And you, the Game Master, have to do way less planning. It's a win-win for everybody. At least that's what I think. What do you think? Share in the comments below. Also below, you find a link to Dungeon Craft Patreon, where you can get bonus content. In this video, I take a deeper dive into a book called Hamlet's Hit Points by Robin D. Laws. And you can get a Deathbringer mini at the link below as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and may all your rolls be 20s.
I can't believe I trained it.
I don't want all my rolls to be 20s because I use proficiencies in my AD&D game. And yeah, 20s like the worst roll. So may all your attack rolls be 20s and may all your proficiency checks be ones. I know a lot of people hate the idea of games where sometimes you got to roll high and sometimes you got to roll low. But honestly, it does a couple of things. One, if there's a player at the table with a cheaty die that always rolls one way or the other, you'll catch him. And yes, that does happen. There are those sort of douchebags out there. And two, I just think it's interesting. Sometimes you need to roll high. Sometimes you need to roll under your decks. I mean, sometimes you might need to do this or that. But anyway, this video is awesome. And every word that came out of Dungeon Professor's mouth is true. And while I still have criticisms of the man, uh, you know, and the people he associates with, I mean, for God's sake, Bob the World Builder play tested a bunch of one shots of games, including Thirsty Sword Lesbians, but didn't play test Adventure Conquer King at all. I mean, no, didn't play test Old School Essentials or Old School Essentials Advanced. I mean, that just seems like that just seems like what I would call bullshit. Like he obviously was playing certain games knowing that they were acceptable to a certain group of people. And I just, I have very little respect for people who will bend that much. And if being a YouTube personality has forced you because of the money to do away with, principles and morals and basically just not being a shithead, then you need to get a real job and get off of YouTube because it's not making you a better person. It's making you a worse person. And that's not good. But anyway, yeah, DP's video, Dungeon Professor, Professor Dungeon Master. I always say it wrong, but then again, when I was a child, I suffered horribly from dyslexia. And I finally got that under control. So maybe that's why I always want to pronounce his name backwards. He's 100% right. He's one of the best guys on the internet, for D&D info. I mean, the guy knows his shit for sure, and I respect that from him. But like I just said, I just kind of wish that he would be a little bit less wishy-washy about things. Like, you've kind of stepped away from 5e, Dan. So, and of course you can call me James. So go all in, man. Go all in. If you've really stepped away from 5e, keep stepping. I know for a fact that the Professor Dungeon Master owns the Old School Essentials and Advanced books. I'd like to hear how he converts stuff over to that, because it's close to Moldvay Cook and it's kind of close to AD&D. In every way, it's superior to 5e. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. So that's what I'd like to see. But will we? That's up to the Dungeon Professor. Also, if I haven't said it in the video, if you are a subscriber of mine, it would be very nice of you to, at least if you believe in this, to say a prayer of thanks that the Dungeon Professor is doing better. I recently went through a thing with my mother who had issues, and it sucks. And honestly, I'll tell you right now, YouTube D&D would if Dungeon Professor were not here, it would be a worse place. 100%. It would be a worse place. You know, there's a lot of people that could vanish off the face of the earth, like that South African guy, and you know, Questing Beast and whatever. And I wouldn't give a shit, you know, because I think that who cares, right? If Matt Colville were to drop off the planet, wouldn't bother me a bit. But if Dungeon Professor were to vanish, it would bother me. You know, I would be like, damn, that sucks. I don't like this, you know. So let's all say a little prayer if you believe in that. If you don't, then just think good thoughts about the guy, that you know he's still with us, because you know you never know how life is going to be. And like I said, he is definitely top 5 for D&D stuff. I don't even know why people watch most of these other shows. They suck. You know, like XP to level 3 and stuff like that. They suck. I'm sorry. I know I'm being negative, but they suck. You know, they don't teach you anything. And, you know, hell, my show sucks. You know, it's me sitting here building freaking terrain or something every time and having opinions about AD&D and OSE and Adventure Conqueror King. It's like, you know, but Dungeon Professor, you know, he actually provides a service that's worthwhile. So be thankful for him, I think. With that, peace and love, and catch you in the next one.